everybody, and welcome back. Today we are finally going to be hitting a little bit of how to deal with the varying player names from data source to data source. We're going to be taking our FanDuel player list, for example, looking at the NBA stats version of that player's name, figuring out where they differ, where they're same, and how to deal with that on a daily basis. Now, this is by no means the best way to deal with it. This is just the basic to help you understand kind of what we're doing, why, and we'll get into some more advanced methods later. So let's go ahead and hop on into it. So what I have for you today, we have two Excel workbooks open here. We have 2019-2020 stats, just a wide range of stats for the season up to that point. And then we have a FanDuel player list for a contest on January 4th, 2020. So we're still using historical data from last year, or yeah, last year. But it'll get our point across. So the recurring issue that has come up time and time again in both YouTube comments and in the Patreon Discord is how to deal with player names when you're trying to match up stats to build a predictive model, and you're trying to connect that to your FanDuel player list for the day when they don't match, because you have to have that key to bring them together in order for your models to actually run, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our player names in FanDuel, okay? We are going to move to a new Excel workbook, and I just called this Data Dict. It doesn't really matter what you call it. And you can start and do it the other way. You can start with NBA stats and then go to FanDuel if you'd like. But this is just a very basic example. So we're going to take that. We are going to duplicate our player names here. And this, again, this is by no means the best or most efficient way of going about this. We're just doing this kind of quick and dirty to give everyone an example. So we're just going to do a quick Vlookup, and for anyone who doesn't know what a Vlookup is, you basically take one value. For here we're going to take the FanDuel player name, okay, and then our table array, that are going to be these two columns here. We're going to take that down to the bottom, and you'll want to double check and make sure you've got $ before the column and before the cell. That'll keep that stationary, otherwise it'll keep moving the table down as it goes down our range over here, and we don't want that. Then we want to look in the second column of that is what we'll return, and we want an exact match. So we're going to do that, and now what's going to show up here is every single player in our NBA stats data set whose name identically matches the FanDuel name is just going to duplicate their name right here. And it looks like we've got a couple that don't match up exactly, and that's where we're going to get our errors here. So let's go ahead and filter this, and let's just look at the errors. Okay, so these are all the names in FanDuel that do not match over here. And we can guess a lot of these that look like normal names that we wouldn't expect to have an issue. There's a good chance that I just don't have them in this data set from NBA, because I was at least putting some filters on at that point, like they had to play so many games and average so many minutes a game before I would pull their stats, because for daily fantasy purposes I really could care less, you know, who John Doe off the bench that averages 4 minutes a night. I don't care, you know, they're not doing enough to tip the scales one way or the other, so we're not that interested. But looking at some of these, Wendell Carter, we should probably have him. Tim Hardaway, we should have him. All right, let's get everybody with junior in their name. Okay, we got quite a few of them there. We can see already a couple. Tim Hardaway, Wendell Carter, we know we have those, right? And they should be coming through, but they're not, because they have a junior suffix to their name, and that's causing an issue here. So what we're going to do manually here, because this is the one we're referencing when we're looking in the Vlookup, and we're returning the test column, okay? So let's do the same thing, but in this column. Replace that, and look at all those that pop in automatically. Kevin Porter, Larry Nance, Michael Porter, Tim Hardaway, Troy Brown, Wendell Carter. So now we have those. So let's go ahead and reset here that we only want the errors. And let's see if we can pick out somebody else that we probably should have. Lonnie Walker, Marvin Bagley, Robert Williams. Those are guys we should all have. So let's come over here and take a look-see. Robert Williams is the third. All right. So let's do the same thing, except we'll do space, capital I, replace with nothing, replace, and look at that. Now we have these guys who are thirds coming in. Perfect. And let's see what else we have. Maybe some seniors? I don't know. Senior? Nope, not in this data set at least. Alright, let's see if we have any goofy ones left that we can just pick out as we scroll down here. The second is Gary Payton over here. I don't see Gary Payton. Frank Mason. What do we got for Frank Mason? Or is he not in our data set? He's not in our data set. Alright, so we'll go ahead and go through, and if we don't see any others beside Kevin Knox is the second, is that Lonnie Walker the fourth? Alright, so we'll go ahead and do the second and the fourth, and then we'll move on, because I think we've kind of proved our point here. Replace. Replace. Alright. So, I mean, yeah, there's some that we probably would like to have that we don't, but it's not a big deal for right now. So let's go ahead and select all again. And we want to paste as values here, because we don't want that formula, we just want the name. And then we are going to just delete out these players that don't have a match for right now. If you wanted to, you can keep track of them for later. But, you know, for this purpose, it doesn't really matter. So now we select them all, and that should have deleted all of the empty rows there. Perfect. Okay. So we have, for all intents and purposes, our complete data set, you know, for this one day. And obviously, this would be a continual process. You would probably want to grab all of the players, not just ones that meet your specific criteria, because they may meet the criteria in the future. Their name's probably going to stay the same, unless they want to, you know, have a kid, name him after himself, change himself to senior or the first or whatever. But other than that, it's probably going to stay pretty similar to what it is at the start. So this is a good starting point. We have our FanDuel name and our NBA stats name. So we are going to save that, and we're going to come over here to our Jupyter Notebook. And we are going to open our workbook and create dictionaries. So we're going to use the OpenPy Excel module. And I think we've done a little bit of this, but not a lot. Basically, we're just going to load the workbook up, reference the sheet, and then loop through that and create a dictionary based on those two columns. What was it, data dict? Is that right? Nope. Oh, that's because it's open. Alright, so we'll take a quick snip here so we can know what's where on that. Minimize that for now. Close out of that for now. Let's try that again. Okay. So workbook, sheet equals workbook. We're going to guess sheet 1. I don't think I changed the name there. Perfect. Alright, so we have our workbook open, we're referencing the sheet. And we want to create a dictionary, 2 dictionaries actually. FanDuel to NBA dict, and NBA to FanDuel dict. So we're creating 2 dictionaries, one FanDuel to NBA, one NBA to FanDuel. And to do that, we need to loop over our data set. So we're going to loop over this for every row, and we want to start on row 2 because we don't need FanDuel name, that header, we don't need that. So from range 2 to sheet.maxRow plus 1, because we need to go, remember Python starts counting at 0, so the x row in Python's mind is really x minus 1 as far as the naming convention goes. So we'll go to plus 1, And that's going to go over every single row. We're doing FanDuel name equals sheet.cell, row equals row num, column equals 1, dot value, NBA name equals sheet.cell, row equals row num, column equals 2 dot value. So what we're doing here is we'll just print FD name NBA name. And we'll just print that out and run this real quick so we can see FanDuel name, NBA name. So we're just looping over our spreadsheet basically and picking out those data variables, right? So what we need to do is turn that into a dictionary. So since we already know that this is the first time we're going over this data, so if this is a running database or spreadsheet, however you're managing your data, if it's a running entry where you're going to loop over this on a regular basis, check for new ones and add them, you would just want to do a quick check, is this name already in this dictionary? If it is, move on. If it's not, let's add it. So we're going to go ahead and just pretend, well, not pretend because it is the first time over. So we're doing FanDuel to NBA dict.update, and we don't need to check for presents because we know these are empty dictionaries. We want to update FanDuel name, NBA name, NBA to FanDuel dict.update, NBA name, FD name. Okay, so what that's going to do is update each of our dictionaries with their respective key value player. So we run that. Let's double check. FanDuel to NBA dict. Yep. NBA to FanDuel dict. So let's see if we can find one that is different. Just to verify here. Here we go. Nope, that's 2 L's on the last name. We know there are a couple towards the bottom. There we go. So we can see Wendell Carter Jr. is just Wendell Carter. So NBA to FanDuel, right? So we just a quick sanity check there, make sure that it's working as intended. What we need to do next is just open up our player list. And pandas. Okay. So we take a look here. We have our normal player list as expected. Okay. What we want to do is show how we can. So normally this is what we'd start with. If we were getting ready to run our predictive modeling, we'd have our player list. We'd want to append or merge our stats that our machine learning algorithm is going to use to predict their fantasy projections. We need to connect that somehow, and if the names don't match up, it's very hard to connect. So we would need to swap out this name, or even if we don't want to swap it out, if we just want to add a new column and then put the name there, that's perfectly fine too. We're going to do both ways. But we need to get that NBA name attached to the same record that the FanDuel name is on. So we have, let's go with DF NBA name. Let's first do equals nickname. Okay. Now we should have a new name that's the exact same, right? Cool. So we need to replace these names. So DF NBA name dot replace, and we're replacing with FanDuel to NBA dict. And we want to do in place equals true. And then we're going to do look at the tail again. And now we should have Wendell Carter and Wendell Carter Jr. Perfect. Okay. That works well. So that's how we can do a new column. If we want to just do the same column, we would do the same thing. So let's go ahead and recreate our data frame so we don't have the NBA name. And let's just go straight to DF nickname. So it's going to be the exact same process. Dot replace. And then let's look at df.tail again. And now we can see we've just replaced the name right here with Wendell Carter Jr. Okay, and then so we can do that, we can run our predictions. And then once we get our predicted score back, if we want to go straight back to our player list, which we wouldn't have to do, we could just be able to use the IDs that come with our exports from FanDuel and DraftKings if we want to do that. But if you want to just have consistency where it's always going to match up, you can go right back to the exact same process and just replace it with NBA to FanDuel dict, and place equals true. We'll do df equals tail again, and now we're back to just Wendell Carter. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. The last thing we can do is we're creating this dictionary, so we don't have, like, once we have it complete and we don't need to loop over it every time to update it, we can go ahead and open my dict.txt as my file. We can go ahead and dump that, and we want to dump NBA to FanDuel dict to my file. Whoop. Okay, and then just like we done before with models, where we pickle them and bring them back, we can dump that down, and then anytime we need to do this, we just pull that dictionary up, reference pickled location, and we have our dictionary ready to run with to swap the names out one way and bring them back going the other way. So that's going to be it for today. I know it's been a while since we've had a video. I apologize for that. I've been getting a little bit behind, but on the bright side, we have some big things coming, not just channel related, but a little bit bigger scope than this channel. Still in the same vein, but you should hopefully be hearing about that sometime in the near future. But once again, thanks to everybody on the Patreon. Your support means everything to me. I know I haven't been doing you justice by keeping things going here, but we're back at it. It feels good to be recording again, and I'm ready to get going. So I will see you guys next time when we dive a little bit deeper into databases and database management. See ya.